Hello, and welcome to Social Anxiety Life Season 2, Episode 6. In today's episode, we will be discussing whether social anxiety is hereditary. We'll be discussing our poll results and sharing listener contributions. So, we conducted some polls on social media to gather your thoughts and experiences, and we're going to take a closer look at what you had to say. So, our first poll was on Instagram. We asked if people think social anxiety is influenced through genes or environment. And a striking 91% of you said environment, with only 9% believing that it's genetic.
On Facebook, the question of whether social anxiety is hereditary showed us some different results. 62% said yes, and 38% said no.
Another Facebook poll asked if social anxiety is influenced through genes or environment, and 100% of respondents said both.
Finally, another Instagram poll showed that 36% thought that social anxiety was hereditary, 28% do not, and 36% believe it's possible.
So, some very mixed responses in those polls, and I think that probably highlights the complexity of this issue. So, in the rest of this episode, we're going to delve a bit deeper into some of your personal stories.
I think our first contribution comes from Michael, who very, very candidly describes how he believes that social anxiety is hereditary. And he says that in his experience, social anxiety is definitely hereditary. He said that his daughter showed signs of social anxiety from the age of 6, and they are intelligent and well liked, but struggles with social interactions. The same goes for his son. Those experiences mirror his own childhood and even adulthood. But despite various interventions and support, such as CAMS, those struggles remain, and it's hard not to see a hereditary link when I see myself in their experiences. Now, that for me resonates quite a lot for me because I see a lot of that when I was younger, and there's a lot to break down in that contribution. I think what strikes me first of all is the link with this to our previous episode that we did on social anxiety and children, and showing social anxiety from a young age suggests that there is some kind of genetic predisposition.
Yeah, that it's been noticed from a young age, and there's certain traits maybe that have sort of continued to carry through childhood.
I think it also links to, quite personally, because we are both teachers and we both have social anxiety, I think that because we have the lived experience of social anxiety, it's almost, I feel more qualified to see this in children. So I can see if a child is socially anxious, I get it.
Yeah. I think we probably recognize the signs of it maybe better than some other people. And also, while some other people might use all that language around being quiet or being shy, we maybe see it in a slightly different way.
I think teachers, they differ in their ability to understand.
Yeah.
I think if you have experience, or if you're neurodivergent or have social anxiety, I think you get it more. That's not to say that people who are not living with social anxiety, they don't get it. But there's still a lot of work to be done in recognizing what it is, because I think mislabeling it as shy, quiet, and reserved, I don't think that's very helpful.
No, I think it can be quite damaging, actually. And I think the problem is quite often those labels are used in a in quite a negative way. I think, thinking back to my school reports, the word quiet was something that came up in basically every school report I ever had, but it was always very much worded as, very quiet, would like to see, more contributions in class, would like to see, so it's definitely something that it was put across as something that needed to be improved.
And I think also for people that don't understand it or choose not to understand it, the effects of that on the person with social anxiety can be quite damaging. I think it's, when you feel like you have you're the problem, or feel that you aren't understood, or most importantly, how you're feeling isn't validated,
Mm.
or it wasn't done, or it wasn't around in our days.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
No.
I don't like it because it ignores how you're feeling and what you have.
Yeah, and it's not helpful. It's not giving strategies. It's not providing support, is it? It's just kind of labeling something in a negative way.
Would you say then that, is that hereditary, or is it therefore, is it more shaped by your experiences in different environments, or is that something maybe to think about towards the end of the episode?
Yeah, I think, I mean, as people were here throughout the episode, we've had contributions with quite a few different perspectives. So I
Hmm.
think probably maybe seeing if we can come to a decision over it at the end. I think at the moment, especially when we were talking about the topic, I really didn't have an opinion on it. And actually, it's been really interesting getting these contributions and hearing people's experiences.
I think to summarise Michael's contribution, where he talks about similar patterns in both of his children and seeing his own social anxiety mirrored in the children's experiences, that strengthens the possibility that it's genetic rather than
Yes.
environmental. But as we'll discuss throughout the episode, I think there is a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
I think moving on to another contribution. This contribution came from Samantha on Instagram, who offers a more balanced perspective, and she says that whilst social anxiety can be genetic, and this is definitely a huge factor, I believe that if we adapt to the environment and made the conditions better, then more people who suffer with the condition could be helped. For example, many people with social anxiety have a fear of failure and embarrassment, but by creating a safe space and just by being patient and understanding, we can support them better. They also identify and are diagnosed with ADHD, and they work better in an environment where there's understanding and just being kind.
Yeah. Which is a really important point, because that contribution acknowledges that there may be a genetic aspect to it, but is very much saying that, the environment can really have a huge impact upon it. And actually, that's why it's so important that we think about creating an environment of openness and understanding about social anxiety for people that suffer with it or find that difficult.
I think there's a link here with one of our previous episodes. We talked about the links between social anxiety, autism, and being introverted. Looking at this contribution about ADHD, I think there's a further thing
Mm.
to be said as well, in that it's almost neurodivergency and social anxiety can be linked together. But then you can be introverted, which isn't something you're diagnosed with. Being introverted is the way that you are.
Yeah.
And it's almost increasing our understanding of being neurodivergent and working out what works for us. Because I certainly feel more confident now in to say it how it is.
Yeah.
I say even as little as say a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have said it.
No. And I think as we have started to talk more openly about our social anxiety, in some ways that has had an effect on our environments, because people around us, because we've spoken more openly about it, make more adjustments for us. I don't know if you've experienced that, or people are more understanding of it, and so then our environment has kind of changed, and people are more understanding the more open we've been about it, and that I think that has had a positive impact.
I mean, let's throw this out there. I mean, let's imagine, let's say you started a new job, for example,
Yeah.
and you wanted some kind of, adjustments for your social anxiety. I mean, what would there be anything you particularly ask for to be reasonably adjusted?
I don't think I would. I think the thing I've always found maybe the most frustrating from a work perspective with my social anxiety is sort of the work socials, in that I've been to work socials and really enjoyed them, but there will be times where I just don't want to go, or my anxiety is a little bit bad, and so I won't go. And there's always that sort of slight pressure around those things. So I suppose in a way that would be an adaptation, maybe for, I don't quite know how they would make that adaptation, but just to not have that kind of pressure, or the questions about, are you coming and why aren't you coming, and
You see, I would always like to be invited,
oh, of course, yeah.
because there's times where I haven't been invited and people think they're
Oh,
doing the right thing.
yeah.
Well, actually, they're not,
No.
because that leads to exclusion.
Yeah.
I think that the social side of work is personal. And, there's times where I haven't gone
Yeah.
to things, but it's still, unfortunately, something that happens a lot, in that if there's a social event coming up and you don't go, if you say you're not going because you have social anxiety, that is the majority of people, I think, wouldn't see that as a particularly valid,
No.
and they wouldn't understand it.
No, I could imagine a reaction of sort of, oh, we'll just come, it'll be fine. I think, as you said, there's still a lack of understanding around it.
I think that work social thing is maybe that's an environmental.
Oh, yeah.
Because having been through it, don't get me wrong, I've been to work social things. It's not as if I haven't been to any, and it's sometimes it's been fine.
Yeah.
But it's all that pre-planning. I'm going. Okay, I'm going. Get to the door. You walk in. You survey. You see what's going on. Who's sitting where I'm going to feel more comfortable. Some people are outside, maybe sort of smoking.
Yeah.
Or enjoying the weather. Some people are inside. There's a lot to navigate.
Yeah, there is. And it's also that thing of, people at work, there'll always be people that you are closer to on a personal level. And are those people going, if we're doing a work social, are people that I'm more comfortable with going, or are they not? And that's going to affect your feelings around it and your anxiety as well.
For me, a simple solution to the work social thing, you do it during work time.
Yeah.
Could you imagine doing that?
No.
Say that gets to the last hour of the day, and 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock is the social.
Right.
I'm more inclined to go then, if it's during the day, rather than like a separate event.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
In the evening. So when it gets to like Christmas, Easter, whatever. Say that the social in the evening doesn't start till, like, say, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm more likely not to go.
Yeah, because you'll go home, get comfortable, think about it, probably overthink it.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to do stuff during the day.
Yeah.
Or with a smaller group.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, as you said, that kind of that points more towards it being quite heavily affected by environment, doesn't it? We had another contribution from Teach Play Connect on Instagram, who said, despite my best efforts, social anxiety seems to have been passed to my children. Although this could be argued to be environmental, I really have done a lot to prevent them from seeing my social anxiety and have constantly encouraged socialising. I think we also have ND in our household, neurodivergence, elders currently awaiting assessment, which could be linked to the social anxiety, but then that is likely hereditary too, I suppose.
There's a lot there to unpack, isn't there?
Yeah. So, but really coming from the other side of things, like very much it is hereditary, and this person feels that their social anxiety has been passed to their children.
I find that comment have done a lot to prevent them from seeing my social anxiety. Now, yeah, do you see social anxiety? That's a very interesting point to think about. Yeah, do you see social anxiety in social situations? Can you tell people who are socially anxious in social situations?
Yeah, not always. I think
No,
some people are very good at masking.
masking. That's right.
Yeah, because I think we've had a experience of someone that we know
Mm.
has talked about how they can get anxious in social situations, and you would never know. You know, the way that they are, they come across so confident.
Mm.
So I don't think it is always obvious.
I do understand as well that this listener, because they're shielding the children from their own social anxiety. It's almost as as a parent, you obviously want the best for your children. You want
Yeah,
them to do really well, but the fact remains that if you have social anxiety, you have social anxiety.
yeah,
The same as if you're neurodivergent,
hmm,
you're neurodivergent, and neurodiversity can be genetic, it can be hereditary, but that also is impacted by the environment that
yeah,
you're in. I can go to say a coffee shop, and we've said this before. I can sit in the coffee shop on my own.
yeah,
I know you're less enamored by that
less
idea,
inclined.
but I suppose for me that isn't social for me because I'm on my own.
Yeah,
But I'll quite happily go with someone, and I'm fine. If it's something else, if it's more people, then that's where it starts to get a little bit more difficult, and I don't like it.
yeah,
But yeah, it's that brings a lot of things together in that particular
yeah. Again, I
contribution.
feel like that contribution really highlights the complexity of kind of where you make the distinctions between hereditary and environment.
The next contribution that we have is from Daniel on Instagram, who offers an additional perspective. This one actually is really, really succinct and to the point.
Mm.
And he said that social anxiety is only hereditary in the sense of learned behaviour, not genetics.
Mm.
So, learned behaviour.
Yeah,
So, learned behaviour, we see that's behaviour that we see from others, or maybe if we've seen, and if we're a child and we've seen an adult do certain things, then we learn that behaviour because
yeah,
that's how we learn. So there's an argument there that if you see a child seeing an adult that's socially anxious, they almost take on their traits. Have I got the right?
yeah. That's sort of what I understood from it. Is it's about seeing the behaviors. I suppose in this case, we're talking about hereditary, it would be the behaviors of your parents, and that you then sort of learn that behavior. But it's interesting because the last contribution made the point of saying, uh, I've done a lot to prevent them from seeing my social anxiety.
And something that's a bit of a bugbear of mine, especially if a child or adult is neurodivergent, is the feeling you have to fix it.
Yeah,
Particularly, I think, if a child's at school and, the biggest one I don't like is, social skills. If you want an autistic, it's almost not forcing, but some people want the um, children who are neurodivergent to be sociable,
mm.
which is the neurotypical bit. So that would remove the social anxiety or encourage how to talk and whatever, but that ignores completely the way that neurodivergent people or introverted people socialize,
Yeah,
because it's different. I mean, I know that I socialize differently
mm-hmm.
to other people in that I listen if it's unknown people. I listen a lot.
Yeah,
I don't contribute a lot. I need to work out how the land lies in terms
right,
of, okay, this person's spoken about this.
mm-hmm.
Lovely. I'm going to install that, and then I'll think, okay, I've thought something now that links to that person, but then the conversation's moved on so much.
Yeah.
I feel bad for myself because I can't use my really good
Right. I see.
thing from a
Yeah.
while ago. So, like, if people talk about football,
Mm.
for example, and some people make the misconception I know nothing about football, when actually I do know
Yes.
quite a bit about football. And when I talk about something that I know about football, and by the time I thought of what I want to say,
Conversation
moved on to something else. And I almost want to say, just rewind a bit, because I've got something nice. I've got something to say now.
Something.
But whether that fuels the social anxiety, because I feel as though I can't say it.
Yeah.
So I suddenly start talking about something that someone else spoke about like 20 minutes ago. It's like, well, it doesn't flow. So but the purpose of conversation, it has to flow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or does it?
No, that could be a whole other conversation. Yeah. I completely get what you mean though, because I've definitely experienced that of a conversation's moved on and I've sort of gone, I've just thought of something I could have said, or I could have like talked about this and I didn't, but it's too late now. One other thing with that contribution about learned behaviour is, my understanding of that is that he's saying social anxiety is learned, and then that would suggest that you could potentially target that and some sort of intervention might actually be effective.
I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that either.
The reason I don't agree with that is that I believe you've got social anxiety.
Yeah.
You can mask your way through it, which I think is different.
Yeah.
You can go to an event and you can put your mask on and you get through it. But as we both know,
yes,
when the social event's finished, you've been masking through the social event, the physical and emotional toll it's taking on you is a lot.
Yeah.
You're burnt out.
Yeah.
And, you might end up having a good time. But, getting through it, I think is hard, really hard.
Yeah.
I think if you got it, you got it.
Yeah. I think it can improve. I think you can definitely develop strategies and it can improve. I sort of feel like I've maybe experienced that myself in recent years, that in some aspects it has actually got better. But yeah, I don't think it's something where you can say, well, it's a learned behaviour, so we'll put this intervention or we'll do this and then we'll kind of fix it, or it will be, we can effectively...
For me, it's almost as if the mask comes off now, because I'm more likely now to say, I'm not going.
Yeah.
Before I would have gone. I would have felt, right, I've got to go, I've got to do this, got to do that. I would probably say, since I hit my 40s, I'd be more confident enough to say, no, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm less confident to say I'm not going because of social anxiety. I'm just saying I'm not going.
Yeah. But then that took time, didn't it, to develop the confidence to say no and not feel the need to give a reason.
That's more a personal development rather than hereditary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Our last contribution, and I cannot believe we've done 23 minutes
that's gone
already.
fast.
And our last contribution comes from Sharon from Facebook, and she says, there are genetic traits but no anxiety, and it seems to be a very singular thing for me.
So is that contribution's kind of saying that there's genetic similarities, but the social anxiety is unique to her?
I think so.
Yeah.
There's variability in experiencing social anxiety, because there might be some people listening to this episode and they think, well, I've got social anxiety. I don't know anyone else in my family that has social anxiety, but it's still valid.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And everybody that has social anxiety has their own unique journey. There's some people who I know have listened to our podcast and they haven't realised they got it.
Really?
Yeah, they don't know they've had it.
Yeah.
But the more they've listened to it, the more they realise that they have it.
Wow.
And it also suggests that contribution, there are factors other than genetics play a role.
Yeah.
Which can be your environment.
Yeah. So I suppose this is probably a good point to kind of summarize and, I don't know, talk about whether we have a perspective on the argument hereditary or environment.
I don't think it's straightforward at all.
No.
I think, yeah, genetics definitely plays a part. The environmental factors and personal experiences are crucial.
Yeah.
I don't know which one.
No. Yeah, I take a very similar perspective. I think there's potentially a hereditary aspect to it. I don't think there always is, though. But I do think environment, from my perspective, probably has more of an impact.
I think the experiences you've gone through in your life,
Yeah.
if you've been badly affected by social anxiety due to other people not acknowledging it, creates trauma.
Yeah.
And the way that you feel. And if you've got trauma as part of your persona, then there's a lot to unpack there, because again, we've said this time and time again, is other people not understanding what it is.
Yeah.
And there's people who will ask the right questions. I know a lot of people who do ask the right questions, but there are so many people who are ignorant over it, and they just think, well, you just snap out of it.
Yeah.
When that's not the case.
No.
At all. And there's stuff you can do, like, you can access counselling, which I found very, very good. But you've got to do what you need. You've got to do what you need to do.
Yeah, every individual person is going to be different in how they exhibit their social anxiety and what strategies are going to work for them.
I think that's all for today's episode of Social Anxiety Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review us on your favourite podcast platform. Join us next time as we continue to explore the fascinating world of social anxiety.
And thank you to everyone who shared their stories and participated in our polls.
Yes, you are all wonderful.
Yes, thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.